Hi guys, this is Bingo Choom and K-pop tunes, and you are listening to another episode of Choom Chill. I am Choom, also known as Reina. So, today we are just talking about a theme of dramas that I don't typically find myself watching too often, but am still interested in, and that would be thrillers. There's nothing wrong with thrillers, and I'm all about a good bit of action and things that keep you on the edge of your seat. In fact, I love thrillers, but for some odd reason, for me, Korean dramas tend to tie thriller in with things like law and lawyers and the police, and those are often drama tropes and themes that I don't find myself enjoying. I don't watch a whole lot of K dramas with law and lawyers and things like that. And for some reason, there's a lot of thrillers that just those things fall together into each other. And that's not my cup of tea, even with American shows, not just K dramas. Now, that makes me probably sound like a hypocrite because I literally watched Vincenzo, which had all of those things I just listed, and I absolutely adore that drama. So I guess that is what it is. I've also watched things like Squid Game and the Iris series and City Hunter, and the latter two, same sort of thing. So anyway, don't really know where I was going with that except to tell you that I guess I am kind of a hypocrite. Whoops. But if you have any good thrillers to recommend, please put them out there and put them on my radar. I also want to admit, though, with this whole episode, and the whole reason for this episode was that there are two thrillers that I'd specifically like to talk about today that left lasting impressions on me, is the main thing. Mind you, these two dramas are what you would more likely consider romantic thrillers, as in a good handful of the plot centers around or has romance included in it. But they still have like an underlying plot line or a secondary plot that really is the thriller bit of it and what makes it a thriller. So by this point, if you aren't judging me for being a hypocrite, you're probably asking what dramas, Choom, and what's the reason these two dramas specifically left an impression on you? Well, I can answer that for you. The dramas were W2 Worlds and He Is Psychometric. The reason they left an impression on me? Well, both of them at one point or another had a shock value, even if it was a very minor shock value, that really just has been ingrained in my head, even to this day. And both of these dramas are older, as some of you may or may not know. W2 Worlds came out in 2016 and stars Lee Jong-suk and Han Hyo-ju, who, if you've listened to some of my previous Choom and Chill episodes, you can kind of pick up on that. I love her. She was in Happiness, and I just really think she's a great actress. The drama W2 World centers around the concept of a webtoon world created by Hyoju's character Yeonju's father, melding with reality, essentially. Part of it is because Yeonju has some very strong feeling for the webtoons lead, who's also the male lead of the drama, Kang Chul, that ties the two of them together. Chul, though, in the webtoon, has a mysterious hooded figure after him trying to kill him suddenly, who also killed his family, and Yeonju and he spend a good majority of the series trying to figure out who it is, how to save his world from ceasing to exist, and facing the reality that reality isn't really all that it seems anymore. And the two of them quite frequently get pulled between the two worlds, so Chul has to come to the realization that his world really isn't the real world, and Yeonju kind of is torn between the fact of wanting him to be real and he's not, and going about the conflicts that way. There are quite a few moments in this drama that kind of drew me into the series thrill wise. The main one, though, that is stuck in my head and has been stuck in my head is literally in the first episode. a bloody hand kind of jumps out of the tablet and scares the ever living crap out of me to drag Yeonju into the webtoon world. And literally, I was not expecting it. So the way the camera just kind of panned to this, and Hyoju's acting in this scene, and the pure terror that is like on her face, I was sucked in. Like that moment on, I knew, I think it was the first episode, but anyway, that moment on, I knew that this drama was not going to be what I was expecting it to be. The drama throughout does a really great job at seamlessly melding reality with the webtoon world too. So there are a lot of scenes transitioning very seamlessly that make you wonder as a viewer where you're at and what's real. Like, are you in the webtoon world? Are you in the real world? Like, what is what? And they kind of do make it obvious of what's happening. Like, there's these glitch effects, but at the same time, just the way things transition, it just makes you like realize that if you were like in the character's shoes, you'd be super confused, and it's no wonder that the main characters do get confused by it. Not to mention that the plot line itself kind of keeps you on the edge of your seat and keeps you on your toes to really guess what's happening and what will happen next. And I do like it because this webtoon, sorry, it is based off of a webtoon, which is funny because there's a webtoon in the drama. But anyway, that's not what I meant. This drama, in comparison to a lot of other dramas for me, I feel does a really good job at, as a problem is solved, a new one kind of appears and adds to the mystery of the whole show itself. That being said, the drama does lack in some aspects. Just like looking at the posters, you can tell that it's more romance based and thriller based. And so, if somebody is going into this drama expecting like a full on thriller, that's not it. Literally not it. So don't expect that. Don't get your hopes too high. It's a lot of it in the story is, it's logical enough that it makes it good to watch. There's a lot of fantasy aspects. However, some of the plot line borderlines illogical, and there are some things that really never get answered about the logic behind the webtoon and the real world and how these two worlds are meshing together as they are. So some science to it would have been nice, but that being said, I don't think character wise, looking at the main characters in the drama, there really is anyone to explain the science behind it and why it's happening. So if you're okay with some open ended things and like some threads not being tied together very well, that is just something to keep in mind. There is the fact too that it's a typical thriller in that it does reach a point where it gets fairly predictable, especially because they seem to focus and shift their focus on the romance. Of course, the writers do a great job at keeping you intrigued with each new added mystery, and it's engaging enough that you'll want to finish. But as I said, there comes a point in the show where it's just an, oh, I know what happens next sort of deal. So that's also to be expected. And lastly, going back to the fact that I do think they kind of shifted their focus to the romance aspect, and that's where like a lot of the thriller portion drops off. I don't know if the romance was specifically necessary in some aspects. I think they could have done a whole lot with the show if they just focused on the two separate worlds and the conflict there. It felt like the two leads were just kind of pushed together because they were exactly that, the two leads. And that is coming from someone that absolutely adores both Lee Jong Suk and Han Hyo Ju. They did have good chemistry, but it was just very amusing to think that Yeonju's character was supposed to be a medical professional, and at one point she just kind of ends up losing that professionalism, I guess, and playing princess with this extremely hot fictional guy who, for the majority of the show, she doesn't even know if he's gonna last. Like, he's not real. They do have a backstory though that's revealed later on, so the romance does make sense, but I didn't feel like there was anything particularly amazing about this couple. That being said though, I really do like the drama, and when I think about thrillers that I enjoy, like I said, it is a romance thriller. There's a lot more romance in this one than the other show, but I did genuinely enjoy this show. I thought it was a very interesting concept, especially with the idea of the webtoon and the real world kind of mixing together. it was just at that time something that I hadn't really seen. And so I do recommend the drama if you're willing to go back and watch something older. Now, for He Is Psychometric, this drama stars Park Jin Young from GOT7 and at that time new and upcoming actress Shin Ye-eun. Also, this was Jin Young's acting debut, so there were a lot of very low expectations for this drama, not from me, but from the general public. I personally fell in love with Shin Ye-eun while watching the web dramas 18, and I knew she had a lot of potential, so this being her more drama debut into a bigger like screen debut and not a web drama, I had so much hype for it, and the fact that it was paired with Park Jin Young making his debut, it was like an instant watch for me. This was just the formula that was needed. This one came out in 2019, so it's a little bit newer, but still fairly old. And it follows the story of 4 different individuals, all the main characters, who are connected by a specific event that happened in the past to this apartment complex. Jin Young's character On actually experienced quite a large trauma from this event. I wouldn't say more so than other characters, but it was fairly traumatic. And from it and an injury that he sustained, he came out being psychometric, which, for those of you who don't know, that means he can read things in the form of memories of objects and sometimes people and things that he touches. So he needs to touch something, and essentially, if there's like fingerprints or memories with that object, he'll be able to see them. However, he has no control of the power. So the first portion of the drama, it serves as like a comical relief sort of thing, and you start to wonder like, what is this drama? What's going to happen with it? Like, what's going to come of it? And that's where Yeun's character Jaein comes in. She helps him teach she helps teach him how to use it and how to control the power, especially because he would like to use it to help his brother, stepbrother, adoptive brother. You have to watch it. I don't want to spoil too much, but he has a brother who's not really a brother, who kind of, the two of them both suffered from the traumatic experience, and they end up coming together and becoming brothers, adopted brothers. So his brother ends up kind of pushing Yeun towards him to help him and teach him how to use the power, because he would really like to help his brother, who is a cop, kind of use this ability to help him solve cases, I guess is a good way to kind of just put everything. There are 2 moments in this drama specifically that stand out to me and stood out to me and are basically like ingrained in my memory of this drama especially. One is, and this is a major spoiler alert, so if you plan on watching this drama or want to watch this drama or don't know what happens, maybe just stop listening here. I'm so sorry. I'll see if I can try and do a timestamp. But anyway, the moment here is where a main character dies. They literally killed off one of the 4 main leads, and I was so shocked because that goes against every unwritten K-drama rule that I know. I've never had an important lead character like this, who's listed in like the top characters, be killed off like this. And I was shocked. And like, sure, there are action dramas that kill people off or kill off an important character that isn't really a lead but might have a tie to a lead or plays like an important role, but to have someone who has such an important role in this drama be killed off like that was very jarring and shocking, and like, I have no other way to explain it. It was just a shock, and as I said, it broke at that time every single K-drama rule, unwritten rule that I kind of just expected of K-dramas. And the second moment for this drama was towards the middle, before the character was actually killed off. I think it was around episode 11 or so. There was a transition in the drama where On is reading a room and kind of descending into a basement at that time, and he literally descended himself back into that memory, and he was shocked, and the basement melded with reality so seamlessly that I literally like freaked out. Not freaked out really, but I was just amazed. Like, I went back and rewatched that scene so many times because the transition was just so smooth. It was so seamless, so perfect. I was absolutely amazed at what the production team did for this. And as a reader, it really heightened your anxiety because you didn't know where you were in time. Were you in the past in this memory? Were you in the present with On? And like On didn't even seem to know where he was at, which really just added like to everything. And I just am so, to this day, still amazed that the production team did so well and the filming team did so well with that specific portion of the whole transition and like whole scene and whole episode. Now, for a romantic thriller, I did think it was refreshing. I guess that's the first word that could come to mind, that when I first watched this, it just was refreshing. The romance is kind of obvious and a big focus, but I do think that the plot line fuels the story well enough that you can easily in some portions ignore the romance. Like, it's not, in comparison to W2 Worlds, the show doesn't suddenly switch to the romance. There's still mysteries that need to be solved, questions that need to be answered, and a lot of things going on that they need to tackle as main characters. And so the romance is there and it's very blatantly there, but it's also something that's really nice because it's not a main focus, where I feel is in W2 Worlds, the show definitely shifted and started focusing mostly on the romance. Not only does He Is Psychometric break a lot of standard tropes, but it also keeps you on the edge of your seat and keeps you guessing, which pretty standard for a thriller. But I do feel like this drama, even more so than W2 Worlds, did a way better job at, for every question it answered, a new question arose, and you never really had the full story. The show only ever revealed to you what you needed to know at the perfect time. It's very standard and very predictable, so although there is a new thing to solve every time, it does get you to a certain point where you're able to slowly start piecing things together to figure it out. I do think that the timing of certain things that are revealed by the writers was done astoundingly well in comparison to other thrillers, and especially in comparison to W2 Worlds, who I specifically said, like, for every question that's answered, a new one comes. This show really did a great job of having even multiple questions going at once and only revealing to you what you needed to know at that certain moment. And for a thriller, I do really believe that that is of the utmost importance, obviously, but I just was really impressed how this drama did it. And going kind of back to the mention of cliches and breaking standard rules, this was one of the first dramas I witnessed that a female lead was tied into an attempted love triangle, but didn't even really know it because she paid the second male character no mind. She basically liked who she liked, and there was no question about it. Like, she didn't second guess herself at all. And so I was really impressed with that. And I felt that portion of the love and romance aspect of this drama was kind of unneeded. There was no reason for the second male lead to like the female lead. Like, it was totally unnecessary, in my personal opinion. I do feel that the ending of this drama didn't really tie things together too well in some certain aspects. There were many questions about why the leads were pushed together and why On's ability came to be that were never answered. The ending was also predictable to an extent and very bittersweet, but it was one of those things that was to be expected, and I don't think there was any other way to go about it. And I think the drama did well in portraying that there really wasn't any other option for that, even though you come to love one of the characters before realizing that he's kind of an anti-hero sort of deal. But this is just how things had to go. And I do think that made the ending of the drama interesting because it was so different from what was expected, and you usually expect even anti-heroes to have the happy ending that they deserve, and this was just a realistic ending. It wasn't a happy ending, it wasn't a sad ending, it was what was to be expected, and he knew it was coming, and that's just how it had to go. So those are just two thriller dramas that I just wanted to talk about because they really caught my attention, and I was trying to think of an episode to go over and just really discuss as I catch up with K dramas that are currently ending. Just kind of discuss like dramas that have not really necessarily a rewatch factor, but just had something about them that had a grab for my attention. And these two dramas were what came to mind first, and they're both romantic thrillers. So if you have a chance to watch them, definitely give them a watch. I think they're interesting. They both have got fantasy aspects as well. And so they're not really your standard thriller drama, but they do follow standard thriller drama typical tropes. So, yeah, if you guys have any other dramas that you think I should watch that are thriller based, because, like I said, I don't watch a whole lot because they seem to all follow the same standard law, police, tropes, detectives, and I'm not always into that. But I am willing to keep an open mind and try and watch things that are new. So, I highly recommend you watching these and also giving me ideas on what to watch as well. So this was another episode of Choom Chill. You guys are being spoiled with Choom Chill episodes this month because there's a lot going on. But I thank you guys for listening, and we will catch you in the next Bingo and Choom episode. Bye!